Hey guys, and welcome to another video, and today I will be going through the top 5 Legend of Zelda games that you can play right now on your Nintendo Switch. And yes, I will be including the NES and SNES online games, since they are Zelda games on the Switch, and they are really good games. So I am going to go ahead and get started. Number 5. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. This game is a pretty fun game. I mean, it's not the best Zelda game, but it is not the worst Zelda game also. It it's pretty difficult to try to get through it, and it's actually probably the hardest Zelda game out of all of them. And it's actually really fun to just master this game and to try to get through it. It can be frustrating at times, but it still is really fun to try to get through this, and you can play this game on your Switch if you have the Nintendo Switch Online service and you have the NES app, which is free if you have Nintendo Switch Online, and that's one of the games on there. And it is really fun, and it is worth checking out. This is the second game in the Zelda series, and it's a little different since it has like an overworld map, and then you go down into like almost an RPG-like area where you, instead of turn-based combat, you're in a side-scrolling area, and you have to try to defeat the enemies and move on and level up. And it is a really fun Zelda game, and it's a lot different than the other games. And this includes like new characters such as Shadow Link, and new enemies, and new like abilities and weapons and stuff like that, and tools. And it is a really fun Zelda game, so let's go on to the next game. Number 4. The original Legend of Zelda. This one's classic. It's the first Legend of Zelda game, and it originally came out on the NES, the same system as Zelda 2 back in 1987 and 1986 over in Japan on the Famicom. And it's classic. That's all you could say about it, and it's really fun. It's still like a wide open area that you can explore, and you can do different things and solve certain puzzles, and it's really fun. It's like the other Zelda games, and it establishes all the core features of what a Zelda game is. And it has all the dungeons and the bosses, and it still is a really fun Zelda game, and it still holds up to this day, even though it's the original Zelda game, and you may feel that it's a bit old, but it's really fun, and it's still awesome. It's still one of the best Zelda games. And you could also play this on the NES Online with Nintendo Switch Online, along with Zelda 2, and this game is just classic, and it's just really fun, and it introduces Zelda and everything like that. It's a good game to get you started on 2D Zelda games, if you haven't played any 2D Zelda games before, because it's simple, and it's not too hard, and the game's actually pretty short compared to the other Zelda games, knowing that it's the first. So yeah, let's go on to the next game. Number 3. The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. So this one is for the SNES, and it's on the SNES Online for Nintendo Switch Online. And this one is really a really good Zelda game. It's probably one of my favorite Zelda games, and it's probably my second favorite 2D Zelda game. And my favorite 2D Zelda game is also going to be on this list later on. And I'm really glad this game is on Switch, because I really like the dungeons, and it really sets a concrete standards for the Zelda series that get adopted in both the 3D games and the later 2D games. And it's really fun. I really like how the dungeons are in this game. They're a little more complicated, and they take longer to do, and I like the bosses and all the different things you can do throughout the world. And also, the Dark World is really cool, and there's more dungeons over there. It really is an awesome game, and it's probably another game to introduce you to 2D Zelda if you haven't played a 2D Zelda game before. In fact, I think this one would be the same or even better to introduce someone to 2D Zelda, like in an old 2D Zelda fashion, and it's really fun, and I really like the world in the game, and it expands the whole Zelda series and adds new things and new songs into the game, which are used later on in the series. So let's go ahead and go into the next game. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening Remake. This game just came out a couple weeks ago, and it is absolutely amazing. I've played the original Link's Awakening on the Virtual Console for the 3DS, because you can download it on the eShop. It was actually the DX version, technically. This is the second remake of Link's Awakening on the Switch, but it doesn't really matter. It's just, it's more of a remake than anything, well, more than DX was. So, the Link's Awakening remake improves almost everything the original did. It improves the, going from screen to screen. It doesn't, like, take a second to move over to the other screen. It's flawless in its, like, motion and movement between one area to the next. And the controls are updated to modern Zelda standards, modern 2D Zelda standards. And it has a better control menu. Your sword is mapped, like, and your sword and shield are mapped to a couple buttons, so X and Y, or whatever buttons could be, or whatever buttons you use to, like, map other items, or use to map other items. Your sword doesn't have to be mapped to a specific button, whereas the Game Boy only had 2 buttons other than the D-pad. You could only, like, use 2 items at a time. But in this one, you could use 4 items at a time, or actually 5 or 6 if you're counting, like, the Pegasus boots, but I'm not sure if that counts. But it really is a really good remake, though. It's not just the gameplay, it's also the music. The music is really good. It kind of has, like, a little bit of an orchestral feel to it. It's not completely an orchestra, but it does have, like, some instruments in there. Like, it has some woodwinds and brass and some strings that really bring out the vibes of Link's Awakening, especially Tao Tao Heights. That's a really good remix of that song, and it sounds really good. I really like to listen to it outside of the game. And this soundtrack, the original soundtrack was amazing too, but it was limited to only the chiptune tracks of the Game Boy, but this brings it to a whole new system and a whole new, like, palette of musical instruments that you can use. And it's amazing. The graphical style is kind of like toys, or maybe even like porcelain or clay, and it looks really cool. Link's all shiny and sparkly, and the amiibo also has that too, the shiny, the glossiness of it. It's really cool, and I really like the style. It really fits going from like an 8-bit Game Boy game over to like an HD game, like a game in full HD, if you're using it on the dock at least. But it's really fun. I really like the new mode, Chamber Dungeons, because it's almost like a little mini Mario Maker inside of Zelda. You don't make the dungeons themselves, you do arrange them, but it does have kind of a personal touch to it, kind of like a little touch to it that you can make it your own personal dungeon. You can add like Shadow Link to it, and like add these new exclusive bosses they added, and it's really cool. It makes use of the amiibos, because the amiibos unlock some new chamber dungeons, or new dungeon chamber, the chambers for the dungeons, and you can also use your amiibo to transfer your chamber dungeon between, like, your Switch with Link's Awakening and then someone else's, so they can play it. I made a video about that, go check it out. I might put it in the description. It's like playing each other's chamber dungeons, where my friends we were all using it on the same Link's Awakening game on mine, but we were just like making dungeons and playing each other's dungeons, and it was really fun. And Link's Awakening is a really fun game. I really like how they improved upon it and added so many new awesome things to the game. It really is a game worth checking out if you want to play a 2D Zelda game, or you want to play another Zelda game on the Switch. And if you prefer like smaller experiences and you don't want a big experience like Breath of the Wild, this is perfect. And this is probably one of my favorite Switch games now, and it's really amazing. So let's go on to number 1. Number 1, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Haha, I bet no one saw this one coming. So, basically, Breath of the Wild is the most revolutionary Zelda game of all of them that are out so far. It, like, has a really big world, probably one of the biggest worlds in all of video games. Not the biggest, there's a couple others that are bigger than it. I think, like, The Witcher 3 has a slightly bigger map, and, like, a couple other games have a slightly bigger map. But this one is, like, detailed, and it has, like, a lot in it, and it's very diverse in a lot of the things. I don't really feel that it's boring. There is a lot of stuff going on. If you go to even one of the most remote areas of the game, just like a random forest could have like a bunch of mushrooms growing in it, a few like random animals going through it, and then a few enemies, and maybe an enemy base or two. It's really cool, and I really like to explore Hyrule in this game, because there's a bunch of different towns that you can visit, you can trade, and you can buy things, and then there's the main quest that you're doing in this game is you have to go to the 4 Divine Beasts, and then you have to defeat Calamity Ganon in the Hyrule Castle after all of that. And it's really fun. There's so much to do in this game. There's all the shrines that you have to do to, like, increase your hearts and your stamina in the game. And then there's also the Korok Seeds, which there's like 900, and I'm probably not gonna find them all, like, ever. But then there's also, like, the different areas that are important to the story, like some of the towns, and then the Korok Forest, and Kakariko Village, and stuff like that, and they look amazing in this game. The music is awesome in this game. I really like the tracks in here. There's so much to do in this game. Like, you could play this game for hundreds of hours and still have more stuff to do. This is probably like my second most played game on the Switch, other than Mario Maker, I think, because Mario Maker has like unlimited levels in it. But The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is so diverse, and I mean, like, even after a while it may seem boring because you've done everything, or done as much as you can do, but there's always still something to do in the game. There's still those areas that you've missed and you haven't been to yet. Like, still in the game, I've been through this game for over 100 hours. Well, I mean, that's not that much, but I mean, like, I don't sink that much time into games, because I play a bunch of other Switch games, but I have, like, I think about 160 hours in the game, or something like that, and I still have, like, areas that I haven't been to yet, and this game is massive. There's so many things. The bosses in this game are really good. Sometimes they can get difficult. I'm talking about you, the one in the desert. I forgot the name of the, I think it's called, like, Vonda Boris or something like that. The Thunderblight Ganon, that's a pretty hard boss. In my opinion, it's actually a little harder than the final boss in the game. And the game's beautiful, it has beautiful scenery, and I can't believe Nintendo got this to run on the Switch, like, day one. And they were making this game while they were making the Switch. So I think they had to do a lot of work to try to make this game come to the Switch, because they were originally putting this game on Wii U. I'm actually surprised this can run on the Wii U, because the Wii U's, like, not that powerful. It's like not barely as powerful, or barely more powerful than the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And the Switch is obviously a lot more powerful than the Wii U, and it can run a lot more games, and can run Breath of the Wild a lot better. But they were developing this game, like, before the Switch was being made, so they had, like, a limited amount of time to port this game to the Switch, and technically, you could consider this a Wii U port, but I wouldn't call it a Wii U port since it came out on the same day as the Wii U version, and it was marketed more towards the Switch. You can kind of say the same thing about both